I remember one time my partner and I went to arrest someone who he was a painter, and he was at the top rung of the ladder, and we told him he needed to come down. He was under arrest. So I started up the ladder to bring him down, and don't you know, he spilled an entire gallon of paint on me. I was covered in paint.
Hey, gang. Welcome back to the next episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the morning. Thank you so much for coming back every week. You know, I couldn't do it without any of you folks, and I understand that. So thank you. This week's guest it's an honor to have this gentleman on here. He's another law enforcement legend, especially in the northeastern United States, the New England area. He is a 40-plus year law enforcement professional. 24 years with the Rhode Island State Police, made it up to major rank, which he was number 2 in the entire agency. Then, 24 years wasn't enough, so he became a police chief in Rhode Island for, I think, 16 years. And that wasn't enough, so then he became a prosecuting attorney for a number of years. He's written a couple of books, and he's also an adjunct professor as well as a former dean. Now, I'm not sure how I got him on here to give us this much time because he doesn't have a lot of free time in his life. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anthony Pesare to the show. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on Game of Crimes.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an honor to talk to you and get ready for our appearance here today. But as you know, I always start off by saying, and you know this, that nobody does anything in law enforcement alone. It's Absolutely. A team effort. So when I speak about my cases, my life, and that sort of thing, those people are just as important as any one person. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me on again. It's very exciting, I have to tell you.
Well, I hope when we finish, you still feel that way. But we want to have some fun here today. But it is, you're absolutely right about that. And our regular listeners here, they hear me talk about the brotherhood and the sisterhood within the Blue Line organizations, our culture, the law enforcement culture. Mm-hmm. So they're very familiar with nobody does a job solo. There's a lot of people that will claim they do.
Exactly.
And if you vet those people, you find out they probably didn't do what they claim they did.
I know. What are they? Stolen valor? Is that what they call that?
That's one way of putting it. Yeah. Some people call it a BS artist. It's amazing over the years how many conferences I've been to where, it's multi-agency conferences and you take your break. And of course, in the evenings, we typically ended up in a bar and everybody's kind of chit-chatting around. And somebody would come up going, Murph, there's a guy over there said he was there when Pablo was killed. Do you know him? And I'm looking over and it never was a DEA agent. It was always somebody from another agency.
Yeah, of course.
I've never seen that guy in my life. Go tune him up. Go tune him up. I'd like to hear what he's got to say.
Yeah.
And when there's New York guys there, they can't hold their tongue. And finally, after a few minutes of the guy still pontificating about all the glorious things he did, they'll look at him like, "Hey, mother, you know what? Do you know who that is right there? That's Murph. That's the guy that was there when Pablo was killed." And typically the guy says, "Oh man, look, I got to call my wife. I got to go. I'll see you guys." But hey, you got to teach from horn. It's probably not worth tooting. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I hit Anthony up this morning with our small town police blotter idea, and he didn't hesitate at all. He said he's to participate. And we like to talk about stupid criminals on here. We understand serious things that we talk about, crimes that are committed against innocent people, and some who aren't so innocent, but they don't deserve to be murdered. But we got to add a little humor in here because this could be a dark topic. And as you guys know, this is a show about crime. We talk about bad people. We talk about bad people doing bad things to good people. And we are going to take the show seriously, but we're not going to miss this opportunity to have a laugh at a couple of criminals, one from Rhode Island and one from Florida, because we have no shortage of criminals here in Florida, especially the stupid ones. But Anthony, if you would, go ahead and tell us about your guy in Rhode Island.
Okay, thank you. This is called playing the wrong music or forgetting the truth. So a man in his 40s was at a bar in Providence, Rhode Island called Deadbeats when 3 men in their 30s reportedly dragged him out and assaulted him. It was so bad that they may have broken his jaw and he may have lost consciousness. It sounds like he'll be fine, but the identities of the attackers and the victim haven't been released. According to police, the victim said he had been dragged out of the bar in the city and beaten up over his song selection in the jukebox. The victim told police he had lost consciousness and that he thought his jaw might be broken. Police said they observed a cut on his chin and he was still bleeding and severe swelling on the side of his face. The victim was taken by rescue to Rhode Island Hospital for his injuries. Well, that's the story from the victim. Now the rest of the story is Paul Harvey would say. Yeah. Fact checkers, however, did a little digging, and here's what really happened. Word is that this man was harassing waitresses and other female patrons. Also, the music he was playing was square dancing music just to annoy all the other patrons. I guess he accomplished that. One man, not three, got tired of it and dragged the man out of the bar and clocked him. I wonder if that man's name was Jason Stratham.
I love that actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Great action film. Yeah, it's
amazing how people remember things differently, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing how when you're in law enforcement or just a regular human being, when you hear one story that I think automatically we want to know the other half of the story and the real story. And then when you're in law enforcement, you talk to somebody and you almost have this BS meter that tells you that this isn't the true story.
When I was still up in DC, still on the job, it was actually Thanksgiving holidays, and I was in our attic over the garage getting Christmas decorations out, and I misstepped and went right through the ceiling, fell about 13 feet on the concrete floor, broke my right ankle. And luckily I hit my head, so I didn't have any damage there. But, I'm walking around on crutches and going in the office, and people were asking me what happened. And your close friends are like, no, you didn't fall through the roof. You stopped over to 7-Eleven, and there was 4 guys in there robbing the store, and you were able to take out 3 of them, and the 4th one shot you, Wow, that's a pretty damn good story.
Yeah. Well, I remember one time my partner and I went to arrest someone who he was a painter, and he was at the top rung of the ladder, and we told him he needed to come down. He was under arrest. So I started up the ladder to bring him down, and don't you know, he spilled an entire gallon of paint on me. I was covered in paint. No, we were detectives for his plain clothes. And I'm like, what is the story going to be behind this? Because I know my partner, as soon as we got back, was going to tell some horrific story. Like, the guy struggled with me, and then he dumped the paint can on me. We literally came back to my house, and he was like hosing me down to get the paint off. Unbelievable.
Man. Yeah. I was going to say, if that was on your trooper uniform, I would suspect somebody would have died that day.
Yeah, probably. I would have, because Colonel Stone would have fired me probably. But yeah, it would. I mean, like I said, you just can't make it up. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Yep. That's absolutely true. That's I actually have a Patreon subscriber channel where one of the monthly selections is "You Can't Make This Crap Up," and it's about these stupid criminals. And it's funny because I was researching one for you this morning.
Oh, okay.
Or last night, and came up. I found a new website. So all of you that come over to Patreon, I got a lot of new material for you coming up.
That's good. Oh,
good stuff.
I remember we arrested an escapee from the prison. He was hiding under one of those little pools for little kids. He hid under there. So we arrested him, put him, and he was in minimum security, and he just ran. So we had him in the back seat. I told him he was under arrest and he was going to be charged with escape. And he went, escape? The best you got me on is failure to promise. I said, failure to promise? He said, yeah, I promised not to run away when they put me in medium. I didn't escape.
Again, you can't make it up.
No.
Rocket scientist.
Yeah.
You probably encountered that guy in law school, didn't you?
Yeah. He was a teacher.
All right, let's get over to the jerk from Florida here. So this involves our Florida Highway Patrol, who we love dearly here in Florida, FHP. And this comes from their video dash cam, where they captured the dash cam captured officers struggling with a convicted jewel thief in an attempt to keep the man from swallowing stolen diamonds worth $770,000. Whoa, that's a big one. And this happened on February 26th of this year. The apprehension of Jathan Gilder, 32 years old. He was up on I-10 in Chipley, which is a Florida city about 330 miles north of Orlando. Gilder was pulled over by troopers who had received a bolo from the Orlando cops investigating the robbery earlier that day at a Tiffany store here at one of our malls. Gilder, whose rap sheet contains a litany of jewelry robberies, was suspected of posing as a representative of an NBA player interested in purchasing diamonds. Well, that's pretty slick.
That's a good one, yeah.
After being shown to a private room, the man grabbed 2 sets of diamond earrings worth, one was $609,500, the other $160,000, and he ran from the store. After being pulled from his vehicle and handcuffed by the troopers, Gilder was being walked to a squad car when a trooper noticed that Gilder was talking with a closed mouth, and there was something moving around in his mouth. They repeatedly ordered him to open his mouth and spit out what was inside. And one of them said, "Hey, if you don't open your mouth, you're going to get tased," which that would have been good to have on camera. But what did he do? He swallowed them, right?
Oh,
so and you can see, I watched the video, you can see him, they're grabbing him by the throat, trying to get him to not swallow him. It didn't work out too good. So when they looked in his car, they'd only turned up the Tiffany price tags and the earring cards. So they concluded, well, he did swallow. So transported him to local hospital. Mm-hmm. He refused treatment and evaluation while stating many times that he did not want the stomach to be x-rayed. Guess not.
Guess not. Yeah.
Subsequent jail scan detected foreign objects inside his body. Subsequently hospitalized under guard in Orlando. Gilder first refused to take any laxatives and claimed to be a practicing Muslim who would only eat after sundown and before sunrise due to it being the Ramadan holiday, which slowed things down.
Evidently.
Now get this.
Okay.
It took 2 weeks before Gilder started passing the gems.
Wow. 2 weeks.
Remarkably, in addition to ingesting the Tiffany gems, Gilder had apparently twice previously swallowed earrings in different robberies. In February of 22, now we're talking 25 is when he was arrested here. So in February 22, he was arrested by snatching diamonds from a Colorado jeweler. As he fled, Gilder was shot in the back by the store's owner. Don't mess with that guy.
No.
He was later collared after walking into a hospital bleeding from the gunshot wound. While under guard at the hospital in Colorado Springs, cops said Gilder told Gilder they would be collecting his earrings as evidence, and somehow he snatched them and put them in his mouth and swallowed those. I'm not sure how that happened. But I guess he still had the earrings in his possession when he went to the hospital, and then the cops showed up.
Yeah.
So anyway, they subsequently had to search his excrement. That's kind of gross. That's what you get a rookie for.
I was wondering who got that assignment.
It's got to be a rookie, right?
Yes, we always eat our young in law enforcement. So
yes, we do. But they didn't show up. So the police report shows that Gilder had also been scanned 3 times and the earrings were not located in his body. It's just, I don't know. I guess the scans are not 100%. Now, 3 years later, as Orlando cops waited for Gilder to expel the stolen device, 2 earrings finally passed through his digestive system, but the jewelry found in his excrement was not what was stolen here in Orlando. They're not the ones from Tiffany. So he subsequently passed 3 of the Tiffany earrings later in the day, that same day, and then the 4th one came out a couple of days after that. This guy's like a walking jewelry store, literally.
No.
So Gilder, he faces robbery and grand theft charges and a daunting array of evidence in Florida. He also is wanted in Colorado on multiple felony charges filed in connection with the 2022 Colorado Springs heist. Oh, and by the way, he fled jurisdiction after posting bond. He's a stand-up guy.
Of course.
And that kind of plays into this. Recently, a Florida judge denied 2 separate motions seeking Gilder's release from custody so that he could attend his mother's funeral in Texas. Now, he's already absconded once.
Yeah.
The defense motion was opposed by prosecutors who branded Gilder a habitual offender and a flight risk. They pointed out that while in custody following his arrest in Colorado, somehow slipped his handcuffs and climbed up in the drop ceiling of the hospital room for an unsuccessful escape attempt. Gilder was eventually returned to custody in his room after causing extensive damage to the drop ceiling. In seeking a bail reduction, I'm sorry, this was a long one, but
No, it's okay.
it just keeps going and going. Gilder's defense attorney claimed that Gilder, quote, has a limited criminal history, unquote, an assertion contradicted by a rap sheet that spans 20 years, many states, and includes convictions for resisting arrest, assault, narcotics possession, and multiple jewelry thefts.
That guy's a one-man crime wave.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And then the defense attorney, I mean, how can they get up there with a straight face and say, oh, he's not a flight risk?
Yeah. They're making sure that the state follows the Constitution in regard to the prosecution. Yeah, that's what you always hear from them, you know?
Oh, yeah. And that's, you know, it's always looking out for the bad guy. But, wow, that just shows you some of the dumb people that come through here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he's not even from Florida. He just came to Florida. We got enough criminals in Florida. Don't come back here.
Florida, not like the rest of us, as they say.
Well, maybe next time he'll go to Polk County where Grady Judd, the sheriff over there, he'll tell you, you resist, you're going to get shot. You're going to get shot a lot.
That's pretty clear.
Yep. No mincing words.
Yeah, got it.
So thank you for playing along on that, Anthony. I appreciate your participation.
That was enjoyable. There. Yeah. It brings back a lot of memories of.
It does. Well, it's just like, I mean, you and I could sit here and tell war stories for 2 hours, probably.
Yeah. I used to tell the young officers I worked with, listen, if they weren't stupid, we wouldn't catch them. Yeah.
Some people call that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you might be wondering how Anthony and I here met. I got an email from a lady named Lynn McGinnis, who's a marketing manager for Anthony and his books, and she recommended him. And in her email, she told me that he was an acquaintance of Joe Pistone, who, if you remember, played Donnie Brasco, the movie Donnie Brasco, played by Johnny Depp. Joe is a good personal friend of mine, and you've actually heard him here back in 2022 as a guest on the show. I think it was episode 73, telling us his story. And then he and I are honorary members of the board of directors for the Southern California Gang Conference. So we get to see each other at least once a year. But it just so happened when Lynn's email came in, Anthony, I was communicating with Joe back and forth and on texting. And I said, hey, you ever hear this guy, Anthony Pesare? And he's like, yeah, stand-up guy. No problem there. I'm like, hey, if you got a recommendation from Joe Pistone, you are gold in my book.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a very good friendship. It started back when I was at Roger Williams University, and we brought him to campus to speak, and we've stayed in touch ever since. Yeah. And, he's given me advice on my books. He's given me life advice. But he's, I think he's the one guy that you could call, and the answer you get will be straight, honest, and probably the right thing to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I have vetted a couple other guests on here through Joe, and that may be one. He's like, yeah, you might want to stay away from it. And I did.
Yeah. Wise counsel.
Respect his opinion.
Yeah.
So thanks to Lynn for introducing me to Anthony here. I truly appreciate that. So if you would, Anthony, just give us a little information about your background, where you grew up, what your family dynamics were, brothers and sisters, what mom and dad did, when you were in school, did you play sports, what sports, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island. My father was an immigrant from Italy, came here when he was 2 years old and got drafted during World War II. And he wasn't a citizen. So he's out in California. They were ready to ship him over to India and Burma when they realized he wasn't a citizen. So as he tells the story, they drove him to the California-Mexican line, made him walk across, came back in, and naturalized him. And off he went.
Okay.
He was 18 years old, and off to war he went. So that's how he became a citizen. My mother was born and raised in Providence, East Providence area. Her family was into oysters and harvesting oysters and that sort of thing. So they met at a jewelry store, a jewelry manufacturing place, because at one time, almost all of the jewelry in the United States was manufactured in Providence, Rhode Island. So they met and fell in love. And my father worked at a Navy base, Quonset Point. He was what's called an electroplater, plating metal on the airplane parts. My mother was a stay-home mom. We grew up in the Silver Lake section of Providence, which was predominantly Italian. And honestly, Murph, I didn't know there were any other people in the world that were an Italian. All my friends were Italian. Everybody around me was Italian. And one day I was like in sixth grade, and Deborah Bolash transferred in from another school system. So I went home and said to my mother, Deborah Bolash, that doesn't sound Italian, Mom. She goes, it's not Italian. It's a different nationality. So that was my awakening into what the world was really like. Wow. So I went to public schools in Providence, and I got a very good education. Public schools were great. I went to high school. I started off at Classical High School, and then so Classical had this unique requirement. You had to have 3 years of a modern language and 2 years of a classical language. So I had first year Latin, which I flunked twice. I had first year French that I flunked like 2 or 3 times. So they called me into the office and they said, Mr. Pesare, you're going to be 40 years old by the time you get out of here at this rate. You might want to consider going to another school. So I ended up at Hope High School in Providence. And that's where I met my wife, Mary. And we dated for not a long time, until I got on the state police. I was on the state police for a couple of years. I have 2 younger sisters. My sister Susan, my youngest, works at a bank, and my middle sister, as they say, Linda, is an LPN, and she's retired, and she used to work almost exclusively at the Veterans Home in Bristol, Rhode Island, because she felt like that was a way of honoring her father, our father, who was a veteran, you know?
Nice.
So after Hope High School, I went to Bryant College for 2 years, which was just starting up a criminal justice program, which is the reason I think I got in, because it was because of my academics. So I got in, and for 2 years, I was at school, but always wanted to be a police officer, a state trooper. My wife and I got married, and we have 2 daughters. My oldest daughter, Jennifer, is a school teacher in Middletown, Rhode Island. And my youngest daughter, Amy, works for Neighborhood Healthcare Plan, and she is a business analyst, which she has explained to me on numerous occasions what she does, but I still have no idea what she does.
Understand. Yeah, I understand that.
But I think Murph, that in order to survive in this racket, so to speak, and come out with your head clear, you need a strong support system.
Absolutely.
And my wife and her family and my family provided me with that.
Excellent. Yep. Now, you guys have been married for how many years now?
So in June of next year, we'll have been married 50 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
I know. And I got the scars to show it and to prove it.
Is that from the skillet hitting you upside the head?
Yeah, a couple of those. Yep. A couple of tosses out the door, clothes on the front lawn. But so now my philosophy is, yes, dear. Yes, dear. It takes a long time. It takes a long time.
When you talk to young cops that are getting married, it's like, that's the first thing you need to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Why does it take us so long to learn that? I don't know.
Slow learners we are.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
it is.
Exactly.
Do you speak Italian?
Just a little bit. Okay. My father spoke Italian, but when he came to this country, he was taught that one of the ways to be successful was to work hard and assimilate. So he learned how to speak English. So, I've learned phrases and things like that. And I've taken I was tutored in Italian for a couple of years, but at this stage of my life, the translation, by the time it goes through and comes out, they're on to another
relate to that through my Spanish. So
Oh, okay.
being a Southern boy, when I say hello, it's hola, y'all.
Yeah. If there's ever a
laugh.
language I would encourage young police officers to master would be Spanish.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's so prevalent, not just here in our country, but around the world.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
It helps. It really does help.
Yeah.
Now, what year did you graduate high school?
1971.
Okay, and when did you apply to go into the state police?
So that was 2 years later. I was accepted into the class of 1974, the Rhode Island State Police recruitment class. While I was at Roger Williams, they did a recruitment. I was accepted, but then there was a riot at the prison. And at the time, corrections wasn't as geared up to handle riots as they are now. So we went in to handle the riot. I always remembered, and it's a strange observation, but all of the murderers were little guys, small.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the Napoleonic complex or what, but it was ironic to me. So because of that, I was delayed in going into the school. So my 2 years had passed and it was too late to go back. So I couldn't find a job because everybody knew I was going to go into the State Police Academy. But I was lucky. I met the head of security at Roger Williams Hospital, which is a hospital in Providence. And the director of security was a retired sergeant from the Providence Police, Tom Madden. And he understood. And he was kind enough to hire me. So I worked for 10 months as a security guard. The academy opened up and I went in May of 1974.
Why the state police? Why not a local police agency or feds or county?
It's a good question. My uncle, my mother's brother, was a state trooper. He joined in 1952. He had spent 2 years previously as an East Providence, Rhode Island police officer. And then, so he was always the hero of the family. But honestly, it never drove me to want to be a state trooper until when I was at school. I worked a part-time job at a drive-in. Now, I know young people won't even know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Oh, you do? Good. Okay. So at the drive-in, it was an outdoor theater. So you had this initial rush of people getting their spots, but there was something, they used to call it after box office. So I would sit in the booth along with a Seekonk police officer, Seekonk, Mass. And every time it was a different officer, it was a detail for them. And I got to speak to them, for lengths of time about what they did, what their life was like, et cetera, et cetera. And something went off in my head that, okay, that's what I need to be. That's what I need to be. And if that's what I'm going to be, I would like to follow in my uncle's footsteps and be on the state police. So
very admirable.
Thank you. And so that's how I ended up applying to state police. And the academy, we started off with 24. We ended up with 16. And I say this to anyone who's going into academy. The only difference between me and the people that left was I wanted it more. I wanted it more than anything. I remember jogging in the woods in Foster, and I had like shin splints, and I'm like, oh man, this is torture. And I said to myself, if you quit, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I stuck it out. Yeah.
You run through those shin splints.
Yeah, I did. I probably bought the first running shoe ever. It was a Nike Cortez, because before that I was running basketball shoes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we grew up with.
That's what we grew up with. Yeah.
I remember those shin splints too. You'd go to sleep at night, and if your wife rolled over and accidentally touched your shins, man,
yeah,
that's pretty excruciating. That's a really bad memory to have.
So it's changed, obviously, but when I went through, it was brutal. It was a brutal thing. It was boxing. So in the boxing, we would just form a ring of, the 16 of us or 24 of us, and they pick two people and you would go at it. And I finally figured out what the method was to the madness was they wanted to see you get knocked on your butt. Because if you're patrolling a rural area where the police departments weren't built up at the time, so you're in the middle of Foster, northwest corner of the state of Rhode Island, and you get into a beef and you get knocked down. I mean, it's probably 15, 20 minutes before someone can come help you. I think they just wanted to know you were going to get back and stay in the fight.
Yep.
But we had guys knocked out, concussions. It was brutal. It really was brutal.
It was.
And I don't know. I can tell you a typical day in the academy if you're interested in that.
Sure.
So the typical day was a live-in academy. So we showed up Sunday night and we weren't dismissed until Saturday afternoon. If everything went well. If the commander wasn't happy, we stayed Saturday. 6 o'clock in the morning, get out of our bunks, we'd work out. Now this is May, June, and July in Foster, Rhode Island, in the heat of summer and spring. And we had to wear sweatshirts, sweatpants, and sneakers, and we weren't allowed to drink water. We couldn't carry water with us.
You're kidding?
No. The only water we got was when we finished the run, you could go in and drink the water or the iced tea. 6 o'clock, workout, and then breakfast, and then classes till around noontime, then lunch, and then classes in the afternoon, and then at 4 o'clock it was PT till about 6. It was either boxing or running or calisthenics, and then it was be dinner, and then lights out were at 10, but you were encouraged to study more. And so like you would go into this, it was an old Nike site. So it was a military barracks. And so you would go in the back in the bathroom where the only lights were, and you would see 5 or 6 guys sitting in the shower stalls, reading their notes from the day before. And then you would get up and it would start all over again.
Yeah. It was, you talk about the boxing. When I went through the West Virginia State Police Academy in 76.
Yep.
And it was for local officers. It wasn't the same as the state troopers went through, but it was live-in academy just like that. And then when I joined DEA years later, had to go through their academy. And for boxing, the same thing. We take a circle of people, and if you were selected to go in the middle, you boxed everybody for like 10 or 15
is that
seconds.
Right? Okay.
And so they're continually rotating in. You're rotating and trying not to get knocked out.
I know.
I got clocked one day and didn't knock me out, but I'm walking around and the nurse or whoever was in charge comes running over to me like, "Murphy, you okay?" And I want to speak, but nothing's coming out.
We didn't have a nurse or anything like that. The best we could hope for is if you were really bad, they let you drive to the hospital to get checked out.
Drive yourself to the hospital.
Oh no, they'd have a classmate drive you, and that was and that was like special because, and we would stop at like the Burger King and have a burger before we went back because that was like a treat, Oh.
Yep. So how long was your academy?
It was at the time 3 months. It's like 5 months now, there's so much jammed in. We'd have speakers come in from the Attorney General's office to talk about the law. And then we had people like the legendary Vin Vespia, who was an expert in organized crime, would come in and, and those were interesting classes. But then every once in a while, and after lunch is the toughest time to be a speaker. So after lunch, we had a speaker. His name was Pete Peterson, I think. And he was at the end of his career with the state of Rhode Island, and he was in charge of truck regulations. So here we are, battling to stay awake. And he's talking about the length of a trailer should not exceed, and he went on and on. And my classmate, Jimmy Musso, was sitting right over to my right. And I could see Jimmy falling asleep, and his head was just slowly going down. Actually, he hit the desk and he came back right up.
Oh.
So needless to say, Mr. Peterson was not happy. He told the commandant, thank you very much. And we got punched that day. We ran and we ran and we ran and we ran. It was
the most boring class you're going to go through. It's only like 230, 240 troopers in Rhode Island?
Yeah, they're probably up to around 300 now. A little over 300. But yeah, it's always been a relatively small outfit. So you can tell by the badge numbers. So they recycle badge numbers, but if they're all recycled, then like in my class, we're in the 180s, 181, 182. And now they're in the 230s, 231. So yeah, it's probably about 300.
And for our listeners here, this is the state police, not the highway patrol. And there's a big difference there if you can explain it for me.
Certainly. So most organizations on the East Coast, state police organizations, and they have jurisdiction throughout the state. So we did traffic, we did law enforcement, but we did detectives, detective work, organized crime, narcotics, major crimes. We did it all. Now, when you get to the West Coast, so like say from the Mississippi west to California, most places are highway patrols, like the Texas Highway Patrol, California Highway Patrol. And in many of these jurisdictions, sheriffs are very powerful. And so they don't want the troopers messing up anything they got going. So, I mean, I think it's in Ohio. If they get off the highway, they have to notify the sheriff that they're off the highway. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't know if it's still true.
Wow.
And then you have some places that have a separate organization that does investigations. I think the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation might be one of them. So they're separate and apart from the state police. But here in Rhode Island, Northeast, most of the Northeast, state police organizations have jurisdiction over the entire state.
Yep. Yeah, it was like that in West Virginia, in Virginia State Police.
Right.
Here in Florida, we got FHP for the highways, and then we've got Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Right.
Georgia State Patrol and GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So,
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to make that distinction because it's more than just, and our longtime listeners know, I used to have a co-host on here, Anthony, that was a former Kansas highway trooper.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that.
And I nicknamed him AAA, and he said, "Why do you call me that?" And I said, "Well, because the only thing you did as a trooper was go get people gas and change tires." And every once in a while, I'll go to some of these law enforcement conferences, and the trooper will say, "I heard you comment about troopers." Hey, just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, I remember we used to get a lot of grief from local police officers because our uniform is quite distinct. If you could think of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, it's kind of a copy of that, but it's gray and red as opposed to theirs being all red. But anyway, we used to hear, especially from the Providence Police, that, hey, there are show horses and there are work horses. You guys are the show horses and we are the work horses.
Busting stones everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And there's always these rivalries between departments. You know what that's like, you know? Yeah. And when I was coming up in law enforcement, there were these silos, Providence Police, State Police, Feds, and we didn't talk to each other. And the only ones that benefited from that were the bad guys.
Exactly.
From the bad guys. So it took years and years, but I think those silos have finally been minimized. Let's put it that way. Minimized. Yeah. But it still goes on. But it's 100% different. Cooperation now is the key to law enforcement because we all, especially when I was running a local police department, I had 50 officers. I had 4 detectives. I couldn't handle a major laundering case, money laundering case, or something extensive like that. I wouldn't hesitate to call in other police departments, the feds, the state police. And I think that's what's changed.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even in the feds have tried to go, the military went to their Purple Command where they're sharing information. And the feds we've tried to do that. My last position, I was the director of the OCDEF Fusion Center. And had, let's say, 18 agencies in there, and we worked in conjunction with the DEA Special Operations Division, which I think had 28 different ages, 25, because they had the intel community in there. But there's still, you get the old heads in there, and there's still that old way of doing things, and we're not telling you anything, and we don't want to share, and we're going to hold back. And you're exactly right. My question to them when they'd start that crap is, tell me how you serve the taxpayers of the United States today, and who benefited from the stupid decisions that you're making.
Absolutely.
And that tended to them, lead them to where they wouldn't come talk to me anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Wasn't such a bad thing.
You weren't going to ask for them to pick you up a coffee because Lord knows what they were going to bring back.
They might have a little special,
little added stuff.
So when you're ready to graduate the academy, do you get any say-so as to where you get stationed?
No, absolutely not. So what happens is the day I graduated, so after the ceremony, they brought us into the classroom at the Nike site, and they went basically like this. Steve Reynolds, badge 17, Situate Barracks. Tommy O'Hearn, badge 186, Wickford Barracks. Went down the list. I never heard my name. Duffy. At the end, they said, Pesare, Schneider, and O'Hearn, we don't have a slot for you now, so go out and get a good job, and we'll call you.
What?
Yeah. I was devastated.
That's all right.
Devastated. I went home, and there's this party waiting for my parents. I mean, I just went up into my room and bawled my eyes out. And
oh my gosh.
I know. And I'm like, what do I do now, And
were you getting paid in the academy?
Yeah, $125 a week.
Yeah, boy, you're rich now.
Yeah, I was rolling in the dough, man. And I was gonna buy that Mercedes, but then they told me I didn't have a job.
My gosh.
Oh my God. And no, stay in touch with us. Nothing. It was just a cold, go out and get a good job.
Wow.
So luckily for me, in 2 weeks, there was an opening. So I got on, and then about a month later, John Schneider and Tommy O'Hearn were hired. And John Schneider was married and had kids. He had no job. But anyway, someone prevailed on the superintendent, maybe through the government. I don't know. But anyway, they got on. But so I was on the job for a period of time, and I said to the lieutenant, I said, how do they decide that I didn't get on and some of my classmates did? He said, it was alphabetical. I said, alphabetical? How does Reynolds, Quinn, why? They're not ahead of me in the alphabet, but they got on and I didn't. They just blew me off. So
wow.
I don't know the rhyme or reason for it, but on
top of that, even the fact that they're not telling you where you're going to be assigned until the day after you graduate.
Yeah.
That's old school.
Well, it's real old school. And then it was like report on Monday, report at 11 o'clock tonight. And then every 6 months, they would rotate you to another barracks. Unless someone got in the shit, then I would, they would take 2 rookies and move them there. And it was just, it was brutal. We worked 15-hour days. So we worked from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 at night. We did that 4 days in a row, and we had 2 days off. And then if you were working nights, you came in at 10 o'clock and you worked till 8 the next morning, doubled up, because during the day you were on your own. And that would be the same thing. It would be 4 or 5 days and then 2 days off.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Of course, you got overtime for everything over 40, right?
No, we did not. In fact, when I transferred into detectives, what they said was, okay, we're not paying you overtime, but we're going to give you 25% more in your pay than a uniform trooper. And I'm like, wow, this is great. but that 25% meant they could work you for 1,000 hours, and they did. Yeah. They just did. And it was just the culture then. That's the way it was, and there was no complaining. There was no filing grievances. It was just basically You know, if you wanted the job bad enough, if you wanted to do the things you wanted to do, then you stuck with it. Now, a
You
lot,
know, back there as young rookies, man, we were willing to work 24/7.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they knew that.
And they knew it. Yeah.
Well, you know, even today, the feds still have that 25% thing.
Do
So
they?
there is
Yeah.
no overtime. You get straight 25% if you work 40 hours a week, or if you work 140 hours a week. It's
Yeah.
the same amount of money every paycheck, but you never come out.
No,
You
no, no,
you
no,
never
no,
come out.
no.
Um,
And we didn't know enough. We didn't think it through when they said the 25%, you know.
yeah.
But you know what? I think I would have put those hours in anyway. Because as you know, once you sink your teeth into an investigation, it's hard to let go.
Yep.
So
It is.
it's so hard, and you just want to solve it, you know.
So you started out as a road trooper, is that right?
Yeah, I spent 5 years on the road. I was at every barracks, and I enjoyed it very much. You know, I did, but I wanted to get into detectives.
And so how did that, what came up after 5 years? Did you go narcotics or where'd you go?
The way it worked back then was there would be an opening in detectives, and they'd ask for a memo, not a resume, just I really like to be considered for the detective division. And then you just waited, and you waited, and you waited, and then they would put a message out. So and so has been transferred to detectives. Now, if you got a call from the major, that meant you were going to go to the detectives.
Okay.
This is before you put the teletype out. If you got a call from your friends after the teletype went out, you knew you didn't get it.
Yeah.
And so it was these rolls up and down like a roller coaster. You know, you would be on the higher highs waiting. So the bottom line, after 5 years, I put in and I got in. The first assignment I had, Rhode Island had what was called Rhode Island State Police area detectives. So each barracks had a geographic area that they patrolled, and there was always two detectives assigned to it. So any rapes, robberies, crimes like that, we investigated. So I did that for a while. And then I was transferred into the intelligence unit. Well, I thought I was transferred in, and that's another story. I got picked to do to take care of 3 witnesses in protective custody, which is kind of the subject of my first book. But after I'd been up there 2 or 3 years, my boss, Mike Urso, said to me, "Have you ever considered joining the unit?" And I said, "Mike, I've been here for 3 years. I'm not in the unit." He said, "No, you're not. You were just brought up here to babysit." I said, "Yeah, I'm interested." So then he came back and said, the colonel said, "Okay, you're in the unit."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I did.
And the unit being the intel unit,
Intel
right?
unit. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Intel unit. And then I spent time in the narcotics unit. I spent time in the white collar crime unit, which was really a good education about finances and how people rip each other off financially. But also you got to talk to bankers and lawyers and that sort of thing. And that's one thing I always encourage people who are in uniform. If they have the opportunity to become an investigator, they should take advantage of it, because the people you meet can help you when you retire, will remember you. The person you stop on the side of the road, investigate the accident, they might be grateful, not for the ticket, but maybe for the helping them out. But you're not going to meet someone on the road that's going to sort of point you in another direction or help you with another career. So I always encourage young officers, if they can, to get into the investigation unit. Like, for example, like the California Highway Patrol, if I remember correctly, they have like an auto theft unit where they do
That sounds right.
investigations, right? So, you know, you could still do it that way.
Networking is, you know, we were talking before we started recording that the old DEA partner, Javier Pena, and I, we're still in the speaking business, and we speak at a ton of law enforcement conferences every year. And when we get our turn to come up and speak, and we're not bragging, but just thankful that we're usually the keynote speakers, you know, y'all put it out there. Guys, this is a golden opportunity to network with cops from all over the country or all over the state or wherever we happen to be, because Now, if you and I were still on the job and I needed something in Rhode Island, I'd call Anthony and say, hey, man, can you do me a solid here? I need to check this out. Instead of putting my request on the bottom of your pile, it's probably going to get put on the top of the pile.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
that's just the way it is.
I sent 3 officers to the FBI National Academy with that in mind, because you come back with, your booklet with everyone's picture and telephone number and that sort of thing. But you have a contact in Louisiana. Yep. You have a contact in Washington because you went through the class together. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
That's what you need to do in law enforcement, because the bad guys, they talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're slow learners when it comes to stuff like that. When you were assigned to narcotics, did you ever have to work any undercover cases?
I didn't. I kind of undercover, nothing really like long term. But so there was a case we had. Hunt Chemical was a legitimate chemical manufacturing place in East Providence, Rhode Island. East Providence got information that one of the chemists there was making methamphetamine or something like that and distributing it. So we went up on his house and we had a wiretap. So we needed to rent an apartment nearby. So I posed as a physician at a nearby hospital. I got a lab coat. The hospital gave me an ID. And so I went over to the landlord, rented the apartment. Everything's going fine. One day, they're drilling a hole through the baseboard so they can run some wires through. And he comes in and he says, "Doctor, what is this?" I said, "I'm sorry, because I'm on call 24/7. They have to put in this special phone for me."
You got to be able to think on your feet.
Yeah. And so I said, okay. And then periodically I'd run into him and he'd say, "So where did you go to medical school?" I said, Dartmouth, undergraduate, and then the University of Connecticut Medical School, whatever. We had set it up so that if he checked, he would find that out. But then he started talking to me about his daughter. Like, "Oh, my daughter's about your age." And he's trying to fix me up with his daughter. So that was my brief undercover work. I did go undercover one other time when I was in the intelligence unit. Someone went to a prostitute, and as often happens, the pimp came out, ripped the guy off, and he was pissed. So he called the state police and reported it. So they said to me, "You're going to pose as the John." I said, "What?" "Yeah, well, why? You go in. Once she makes the effort, you say, 'Where is the bathroom?'" Okay. That'll be our signal to come through the door. So I go to the house, and I got really short hair, and I said, "I'm in the Navy. I'm stationed in Quonset." And so she makes the offer for the cash. And so we go in the bedroom and we're rolling the sheets down. And I go, "Where's the bathroom?" And she says, "Right down the hall." Nothing. Nothing.
Of course not.
Of course not. Then I say, "Where's the bathroom?" She said, "I told you, it's like right down the hall." Third time, "Where's the bathroom?" She said, "How many times are you going to ask me?" I said, "You know what? State police, you're under arrest." And of course, then they all come in laughing their asses off. They got me. They got me.
Oh, yeah. It's popping your cherry.
Yeah. "Where's the bathroom?"
What are you, stupid?
Yeah, what are you, stupid? It's right there. It was always a small apartment in Pawtucket. It's not, you could see the bathroom. So those are my two brief undercover operations. Yeah.
Before, and I want to hold off on talking about the intel unit here because I want to really get into some organized crime case that you worked there.
Mm-hmm.
The area that you grew up in, you mentioned it a while ago. I forgot what the name of it was.
Silver Lake.
Silver Lake. And is that what you guys refer to also as Federal Hill?
No, it's adjacent to Federal Hill.
Okay.
but it's not the same. So Federal Hill represents Atwells Avenue, which comes out of the city of Providence. Think of
Mm-hmm.
Providence like a wagon wheel. The spoke would be Providence. And then off that, there are several neighborhoods, at least 7 different neighborhoods, because
Okay.
supposedly Providence was founded on 7 hills like Rome. So one of the spokes leads out to Silver Lake, one to Atwells Avenue, and Atwells Avenue was the center of organized crime in Rhode Island. It's where my family lived and where they were brought up. I
Mm-hmm.
was brought up in the Silver Lake area.
Okay. All right. And then I just kind of lay the groundwork when we get into talking about the organized crime.
Sure.
The unit that you're talking about is the intel unit. Was that their singular function was to address organized crime?
Yes. So the intelligence unit was formed by Colonel Stone, and he's formed it as an independent unit within the detective division. And the reason I say that is every other unit in the detective division answered to the detective commander. But in the instance of the intelligence unit, we reported to Colonel Stone directly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's his baby.
That was his baby. Of course, it it caused a lot of friction because detective commanders were like, I'm not going to know about what, you know what I'm saying? No one's going to tell me that. I mean, it didn't make sense to them, but that's the way he wanted it operated.
Yeah, he's the boss.
He was the boss.
Now, before we take a break from today's interview, I want to mention quickly, you've written 2 books. One is They Always Win, that's the one I read just recently. And
Yep.
then the second one is Back in the Game. Your centralized character is Gino Peterson, who is a young trooper coming on. Sounds a whole lot like you. You mentioned that you were detailed to the unit for 3 years to guard 3 prisoners, and that's what Gino does in his book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of similarities going on there. And
Yeah.
then when we started looking at the organized crime figures, and I did a little research on them, they sound very familiar to the cases that you discussed. I tell you, it's a great book, everybody, because as soon as I finished it, and I've read it over 2 days. It's a real easy read.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not going to give it away, but I will tell you this much. There's something that happens at the beginning of the book, and by the time I got to the end, I had forgotten about it because there's so much other things going on. And I mean, it's at the very end of the book, and then he ties it all in and just shocked the crap out of me. And I thought, damn, that was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It really was. So I'm looking forward to reading Back in the Game. Your manager sent me a copy of that as well. So, and you can get, we'll talk about this also. I'll put a little screen up, but you can find these books on Amazon. You can find them Barnes and Noble. I'm guessing probably any reputable bookstore is going to have these available.
Yep.
The first one you wrote back in 2011.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then the second one in 2024. So it's relatively new.
Yep.
And of course, the big question is there going to be a third book?
There is going to be a third book. I've already started working on it.
Right.
I got about 30,000 words, but I think I need about 90 to 100,000 words. So we're getting there. It's, as you know, it's a slow process, and it's more discipline than talent. I really believe that. I think Einstein said genius is 1% perspiration. No, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just tedious, but sometimes I sit down with a legal pad and I write it out and then I type it in. And sometimes I'll be writing and suddenly a story comes to me from my background and for what happened to me. And so that I write that. So yes, the third one is on its way, the trilogy, and that'll probably be the last one in regard to Gino. I think that'll be the last one.
And he just happens to be from Italian descent also, right?
Yeah, it's amazing, the parallels. I have no idea. I just listened to the Muse. The Muse. No, I would have to say the first book is like 70% real, just fictionalized, and 30% fiction. And the next one is probably 70% fiction, 30% real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted to tell my story. And when we got a conviction of first-degree murder, I used that. I said, "There's a story here," and that's why I wrote it.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about the book because I want people to read it. I'm telling you, and you hear me say about all the guests we have on here that have books. They are good books. They're excellent books. I mean, if you want to know about law enforcement, some of the things that you talked about with the way the state police reacted to certain situations, I was a little bit surprised that it's written in the book because they don't take any crap off anybody.
No, that was always.
But it seriously is a good read. It's one that you started and it's hard to put down.
Thank you.
I say that about most of them, but it's because I enjoy that kind of reading.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than keep mumbling on through here, let's go ahead and call quits to today's interview. Anthony here has agreed to come back for tomorrow's episode. So looking forward to all of you coming back. You want to come back because now we're going to get into the organized crime section. And I'll be honest with you, Anthony, I didn't realize that the mafia was actually involved in the state of Rhode Island. And then as I read and do research, I find out it's the New England mafia. We always hear about the families in New York. Right. There's a lot of other organized crime groups out there. And I think the one we're going to talk about was actually tied into the Genovese family.
Yes, they always had a strong relationship with the Genovese family because the Genovese family, I mean, they're the strongest, the biggest. They're in every borough, but they also control Hartford, Connecticut. So there's always been a relationship between the two families.
Yeah, so this is really good stuff. It's can't wait to find out about Bobo. I read about him, and he sounds like a real jackass.
He was a real gangster. I'll tell you that. Yeah. He was a real gangster.
Right. Anthony, thank you for today. Everybody, please come back tomorrow. This is going to be. I'm having a great time talking to Anthony here. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour now because we get to tell him war stories and. It's two old farts. I mean, we're two old has-beens, and we live vicariously through what everybody else does, but we have a good time doing that.
Certainly.
So thank you again for joining us here. By the way, if you haven't checked us out, Game of Crimes on YouTube yet, do me a favor and go over there, type in Game of Crimes Podcast in the search bar, hit that subscribe button, check out some of the episodes, click the like, and feel free to send me your comments. If they're ugly, I'm still going to read them. I just won't respond. But looking forward to seeing you folks tomorrow. And in the meantime, God bless. Stay safe.